Elisenda Stewart, guide dog mobility instructor. She has more than 30 years of experience after receiving an ONCE scholarship and training in the United Kingdom GDBA. She was coordinator of training programs at the ONCE Guide Dog Foundation for 10 years, participating in environmental enrichment and animal welfare programs and projects to improve the quality of life of the dogs. Xabat, Black Labrador born at the end of 2019. Like all dogs born in ONCE Guide Dog Foundation, he spent his first year of life with the puppy walker family in the socialization phase. After returning to the guide dog school, he was trained in aspects of early training until it was observed that he had special temperamental characteristics and high potential. Alberto Villalba's life changed in 2013 after a grenade from the Spanish Civil War that he found while helping a neighbor clean her garage exploded. The accident caused total loss of vision, partial loss of hearing, and the amputation of both hands. From Teruel, a city with a population of barely 36,000 inhabitants, ONCE assisted Alberto with the teamwork made by a social worker, a psychologist, a rehabilitation technician, and later, a Typhlo technology instructor. His mobility with the cane did not provide him with full autonomy due to various incidents that arose with the prosthesis that prevented him from using it normally. Until the ONCE rehabilitation technician proposed the option of applying for a guide dog to have greater freedom, mobility, and safety when traveling.
Valoré la posibilidad de tener un perro guía cuando el técnico de rehabilitación de movilidad de la ONCE del bastón pues me propuso que tendría mucha más libertad y movilidad a la hora de solicitar el perro guía. Y ese fue el momento en el que pensamos ya echar la solicitud, porque como tardaba bastante tiempo en que te den el perro guía, pues si la echábamos ya iba pasando tiempo.
For years, everything was a constant learning process on how to solve the difficulties that arose. However, in the summer of 2021, Elisenda observed during training with Xabat that his qualities, temperament, and characteristics could match Alberto's needs. In September of that year, the lives of the three began a close relationship that was unthinkable at that time.
So the first meeting I had with Alberto was on the phone. First contact was like very complicated with a lot of emotions, like good emotions and thinking it's going to be possible, or maybe no, it's not going to be possible. When I spoke with Alberto, we were in the pandemic. It was 2 years that Alberto was at home, like most of the people. Other factor that was important is that his prostheses were not working correctly. He was slimmer because he had lost weight, so he could not adapt his prosthesis in that moment. For me, it was good, his motivation. He had a high motivation and he was willing to do the effort of taking this step.
The challenge began with many difficulties that were solved thanks to innovative teamwork in which the staff of the ONCE Guide Dog Foundation participated. A tailor who did unique work with the harness, ONCE rehabilitation technicians, and companies that designed 3D prosthesis, all coordinated by Elisenda herself. Despite the distance of more than 300 kilometers between them, Alberto's perseverance and motivation, the unconditional support of his family, the character of Xabat, and the desire and effort of Elisenda made the barriers fall down with the passing of the weeks.
El trabajo a distancia, fue duro porque claro, a distancia no es como estar en persona, y porque yo tenía muchas ideas, pero a la hora de explicarlas pues tenía que explicarla todo a través de vídeos, a través del teléfono. Entonces eso yo creo que fue duro a la hora de que él entendiera mis ideas o lo que yo decía, o por ejemplo cuando él me decía que probar algo, pues a la hora de ponernos, no de acuerdo, pero sino de ponernos en compás los dos. Entonces yo creo que fue más que nada ese primer tramo.
All the problems we found. Well, one of the problems was that I knew that Alberto could not open easily and close and use his hands. So we started to think about how can he open his harness. So we thought at the end that Velcro would be the best idea. It's very resistant. At the beginning, we were thinking maybe the dog would be loose or maybe it would open, but it's so hard, the Velcro is so hard that it would not move or open. That was one of our first objectives, to get a harness and to get Alberto to dress the dog on his own independently, not to need a person to help him out to dress his dog when he has to go out. The next was the leash and the collars. At the beginning, on the left side, he would work with his prosthesis, and the right hand, he would have to wear this leash up in his arm, and this would be how he can control his dog in the street. If any distraction, to turn to the left, it would be with his right arm. And we have to look as well so it wouldn't get tangled, that it could rotate anywhere and any movement. Other part was very, very hard at the beginning for me. I was thinking in safety and the welfare of Alberto and Xabat all the time. I was a bit anxious as well at the beginning, thinking if they will be safe. They have to put, Alberto will have to put Xabat in his routine of spending every day at the street. How could they be together? So we did this leash so he can put it, and as well it would be tied to Xabat to relieve the dog every day. And the next step would be rewards. How can we maintain a high motivation and welfare of Xabat during all this program? When dogs work with people that are blind and with additional needs, they need to be motivated. But Alberto would not be able to reward the dog. So we thought that this machine would be very good for him, so he can praise the dog just pushing with his stump every day when he puts the harness, when he goes out, and when he comes back home, so he can reward the dog. Grooming, very important for the bond of both. Alberto had to be independent to brush his dog and groom his dog daily. So it was easy. We've looked out for something he could use and just slip in and groom his dog every day with these two things. The most difficult, I think, aspect for me of all this process has been the prosthesis. This is something that was new to me. It's a new world for me, so I had to learn. I had to learn from Alberto. I had to go and internet and YouTube to an orthopedics to learn how the machine works really. It has the sensors here on one side where Alberto puts it on or puts it off, and it goes into his arm, and this works with his muscles. So he has to work with his muscles so he can open and close the processes. What happened? That he lives in Teruel. It's like 3-hour drive from Madrid, and in winter it's very cold. So when the temperatures are very low and he goes out in the street, his body and his muscles go very rigid. So the hand will open and close by itself. It was like something magical. We were on the street, especially something cold, and it would open or close. Or maybe if he was frightened, Alberto had a reaction of being frightened, the hand would open. So we had to work in Alberto to control the processes. And how to open and close correctly and have the good position, hand position, working position, guiding position. So it's very heavy. It's like 1 kilo and 200 grams. It's very heavy. So we thought to ask for help to 3D fabrics to see if they would help us, because we had a problem with the prosthesis. The normal prosthesis did not let Alberto get all the information from the environment. This is rigid, it's very heavy, so if the dog moved from one side to the other or up or down, it was more difficult for Alberto to know what's happening in the environment. So we decided not to use the processes in his right hand, so he can use his limb to know where he was, if it's the door, and to have some references of the environment.
A difficult environment full of obstacles, street crossings, distractions, and ignorance from the rest of society was something that the three of them worked on intensely during the domiciliaria course.
The course was domiciliary, and I divided in two periods. A first period, that would be the introduction and development, all the training like speed, attention, learning how to communicate with the dog, how to turn to the left, to the right, control of distractions in the street. And because it needs so much effort, even for a normal guide dog user with no additional need, it's a big effort to learn how to adapt to your guide dog. I was very conscious that I would have to go in a very slow terms. It would be to get to success. It would be like break every part of the training development program and control frustration and stress of Alberto and Xabat. I didn't want to rush through the program or through the course, so the frustration was too high, and maybe Alberto will drop off or myself will drop off of the program. We had good days, we had bad days, but controlling all those sequences gave us the opportunity to continue through the course. The second part of the domiciliary was to consolidate all the work we did before. Alberto's attitude was very important because he had a lot of problems through the month. He was working with Xabat because of his processes, because sometimes it opened, sometimes it closed, helping Xabat have good motivation to continue doing his work. I think for people that think maybe, or guide dog instructors that want to go on with people with additional needs, just to say, just try, think if you can do it, and if you can do it, you have to be very patient. Because sometimes we want to rush, we want to get to the end of the graduation, but they have special needs and you have to be very sequenced and you have to program every bit of the work.
In January 2022, Alberto Villalba became the first blind person without hands in Spain and perhaps in the world to receive a guide dog and walk with them, becoming his eyes after a long and innovative process of adaptation. A milestone that was presented in his city and quickly became national news, being the cover of some newspapers and a reference in all media and television news. This had a great impact and also served to raise public awareness of the importance of not distracting guide dogs in general when they are working, and Xabat in particular when he accompanies Alberto through the streets of Teruel. After graduation, the team has not stopped working to find solutions to the problems that Alberto has with the prosthesis on his left arm. After trying several orthopedics, they decided to explore the possibility of creating 3D designs that fit his needs to continue his path with Xabat.
The presentation of Alberto and Xabat here in Teruel was very important. It was their graduation. It was to share with media all the information, and especially to visualize to the society the importance of including people with special needs in our daily life. I think the effort and the attitude of Alberto, being a young person after an accident, to be so positive and willing to fight for his independence. He wanted to be independent, and he was fighting for it. And at the end of all the hard work, it was a success. I think it's very important to show the world that with courage, with good work, and with a good attitude, we all can go over difficult situations, and at the end have succeed in whatever we want to look for. In this moment, for me, the best award I can receive, we have received a lot of awards. Xabat has received awards, and we've been in Spain in all the information, publicity, newspapers. The best award for me is for them to be successful and independent every day in their daily work. And I think in Alberto, the dog, in this case Xabat, has given him a new life. And especially now, Alberto is one more in Teruel. He walks down the street and he's independent every day. So for me, that's the best reward.
Noté una mejoría sobre todo a la hora de hacer los recorridos, que con el bastón, por ejemplo, de casa a mi gimnasia, a lo mejor me costaba hora y media, y a lo mejor con el perro estoy haciendo en 30 minutos o una cosa así. Entonces, sobre todo, los recorridos los hago muy muy rápidos y no me da tanta, por ejemplo con el bastón me costaba un poco más salir a la calle, más inseguro, porque claro, como las prótesis no tienen tacto, vas todo más intuitivamente. Entonces el perro me da mucha seguridad y libertad y autonomía a la hora de salir yo solo a la calle. Y el no tener a lo mejor la pereza de decir, hoy ya vendrán a por mí. Pues así con el perro no tengo esa pereza. Lo que supone Xabat para mí hoy en día sería todo, porque sin él, como el que hice yo por sí solo, como antes a lo mejor que sí que pues buscaba a mi novia, a mi madre, pues ahora con Xabat lo hago yo todo solo, me bajo al gimnasio, voy al fisio, y yo creo que es libertad y la autonomía total y plena. Selly la verdad es que ha sido un pilar fundamental a la hora de que el trabajo haya salido adelante. Porque sin Eli estando encima o teniendo mucha la imaginación también que tenía o la insistencia, pues el trabajo a lo mejor hubiera costado más sacarlo, o mucho lo que hice, a lo mejor otro instructor a lo mejor le hubiera costado un poco más el coger este proyecto. Entonces gracias a Eli pues la verdad es que hemos conseguido que el proyecto haya salido para adelante, porque si no la paciencia que ha tenido que tener también, ¿sabes? Y lo que conoce a Xabat y al final a mí también, que es que lo que dices tú, al final nos hemos dejado casi ya somos familia. La implicación de la ONCE, de la Fundación 11 del Perro Guía, la verdad es que ha sido esencial, porque sin ellas no hubiéramos conseguido tampoco que el proyecto hubiera salido adelante, porque por mucho que Eli se hubiera empeñado, a lo mejor si la ONCE o la Fundación 11 del Perro Guía, mejor dicho, se hubiera negado o se hubiera puesto más impedimentos, no hubiéramos tenido las facilidades para adaptar los materiales, las correas y todo lo que mueve. Entonces pues hay que agradecer en primer lugar la ONCE, que fue la que me acogió en primer lugar tras el accidente y tras la que me encaminó un poco a mi autonomía con el bastón, y luego la Fundación 11 Perro Guía, que fue la que aceptó el proyecto y la que echó todo lo que tenía que echar para que el proyecto funcionara y saliera muy bien.
To this day, Alberto Villalba has his house automated to have autonomy with his dog. He walks with Xabat through the streets of Teruel with full security. He goes to the gym and sees a physiotherapist 2 kilometers from his home in just half an hour. He takes daily walks in the country, plays with him, creating an effective bond and mutual well-being. He brushes him, gives him rewards, and feeds him independently. They cross through complicated pedestrian crossings with a lot of traffic, activating some traffic lights with a remote control that was specifically requested by Elisenda. They walk through the field where Alberto releases Xabat to play and is happy with his partner. They are inseparable and the reflection of a unique success story of social inclusion and innovation from Spain, from ONCE and the ONCE Guide Dog Foundation to the rest of the world.